Before we get started here, we have to talk about bugs. We live in northern Florida. The bugs are horrendous. They'll eat you alive. The mosquitoes swarm late in the afternoon and all evening, which seriously impacts your work times. We recommend you get one of these electric bug repellent devices. We found ours on eBay. The ones that run on propane are quite expensive because you got to buy the unit, which is like $15–20, and you got to buy the packs of fuel and the pads, and they don't last long at all. This thing here costs virtually nothing to operate. All you do is put the pads in it. I paid $9 and something for the heater unit and a box of 30 pads. So far I've only used 3 of the pads. They work great. The next thing we need to talk about is fasteners. A lot of fasteners are using this project, and if you want something that has a lot of strength, we use 1/4-inch bolts. Problem is you can't get to the nuts. A lot of times we want to install 1/4-inch bolts. So we found this product called a rivet nut. It's shown here in the picture. The rivet nut simply slides into a hole and you pop it in there just like you pop a pop rivet. There's a special tool that does that, and the tool is shown right here. You simply screw the nut on the end of the tool as shown. Then you squeeze the handle and the tool pops the rivet into the metal, sheet metal. It's a very strong attachment, and we used it underneath the van a lot. We used it to mount the bed to the walls inside the van. You will notice that it requires a 23/64 inch drill bit to get an exact fit. And the better the fit, the better the crimp. Another way of fastening items is to use what's called a self-drilling sheet metal tap. We don't like these. A lot of people use them. We feel they're not very strong. If you look at the end of this tap, you'll notice that the part that cuts the hole, the little knives there at the end, they're almost the same diameter as the outside diameter of the threads. There's very little portion of those threads actually holding the screw into the sheet metal. We'd rather have something that makes a smaller hole closer to the shank diameter of the screw, the inside diameter of the threads, which gives you much more strength. So we chose not to use these self-tapping screws. Instead, we chose to use stainless steel sheet metal screws throughout our project. We had 2 types of heads. The head shown here is called an oval head, and it's used with this dressing ring. If the screw is going to be visible after installation, then we put the ring on it, use the oval head. If we want the screw to disappear, then we use a normal countersink screw head, stainless steel screw. In either case, we use stainless steel or aluminum on everything in the van and outside of the van to try to keep rust inhibited throughout the project. You can also get sheet metal screws with flat heads. In other words, it's like a washer almost. The head is a washer combined with the head. We didn't like this because we want to grip the material real tight. We don't want squeaks as we're driving down the road. So these little adapter rings, these dressing rings, they have a sharp edge on the outer ring, and it grabs into things such as plywood. When you tighten the screw down, it actually grips the plywood very tightly so that joint cannot squeak. I'm afraid the flathead screws would actually squeak going down the road. One problem we ran into using the stainless steel screws in the ribs of the van is that some of the ribs are high carbon steel. This allows the rib to be thinner yet just as strong. The problem is it dulls your bits easily, and a stainless steel screw, if the hole isn't exactly the right size, it'll twist off instead of expanding the hole slightly. So it's very important that you use a 7/64 drill bit for a number 8 sheet metal screw. This gives you the proper hole, but even then a lot of them are really tight. If the thicker the metal, the tighter it is. So you can tell by looking at the metal how thick it is. Some are real thin, some are a little bit thicker. It's a little bit thicker if you run the 7/64 drill bit through the hole and then wobble it just slightly, then the screw will go in with no problem. If you run the hole straight through with the 7/64 and use a number 8 screw, on a thicker piece of rib, then it's going to twist off the screw. It won't expand the hole slightly. The screw can't give, the hardened steel can't give, so the screw breaks. So always put these screws in manually in the ribs, because you want to feel when it gets really tight. You don't just twist it off. Now you got a screw hole where you don't want one because it's twisted off in it. You can't get the screw out. So use care with these stainless steel screws in the high carbon steel ribs. For the cabinet construction, we use a thing called the pocket screw. Pocket hole screw is the exact name. And shown in the picture here, there's a blue plastic assembly. That's the jig that holds a drill bit at the proper angle. And then the piece of wood there shows 2 pocket holes drilled into it. And you simply use the long bit in the picture here, and you drive the screws home, and that makes a nice solid joint. You also glue the joint before you drive it home. Then you have the glue and the pocket screws working together. The slot in the board is for the drawer bottom. You slide a piece of wood in there for the forward bottom. So this is what we used to build our cabinets. Our cabinets were frame cabinets. In other words, we didn't want solid wood walls and bottoms and tops. We wanted a lightweight hardwood frame, which is strong, and then lightweight plywood sections to close it off on the sides and the bottom as required. This gave us very light cabinets, and they were built in place. The frames are easy to install in place, and you just add the walls to the cabinets when you're finished. Made for a very light cabinet system. And last but not least, we all are familiar with nylon cable zip ties. Well, here we're talking about stainless steel zip ties. They can be used underneath the vehicle where rocks might hit them and break them, or extreme temperatures might make them break. They're quite useful where you need strength and invulnerability to temperature. So use these stainless steel zip ties underneath the vehicle and a few places inside the vehicle where the strength is required. Much stronger than nylon cable ties. Well, this concludes the fastener section. Hopefully you found some information you didn't know and it proves useful to you.